Okay, so the front of our shirt is complete now. You can see I've put all my stitches on and all my buttons are distributed. I've got my yoke completed, and now we're going to just rearrange our layers. You can see I've got 3 layers, one called collar, one called bodice, and my template layer. And if I marquee select across the whole shirt, you can see that my drawing is distributed across 2 layers. We've got the collar on the collar layer and the rest of the shirt is on the bodice layer. Now we're going to make the back of the shirt now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move everything that's on this green layer, the bodice layer, up onto the collar layer like so. And I can just do that by dragging that little green light, click on the collar, and right click, arrange, send or bring to front, and that brings my collar all the way back to the front. So now I'm going to change the name of this layer to shirt front. Okay, and I'm going to change the bodice layer to shirt back. Okay, and I'm just going to select this shirt and move it. Oops, I know what I've done already. I forgot to hold down the Alt key, so I'm just going to undo that. Holding the Alt key and moving, and you can see there that I've now got 2 versions of the shirt front. Then what I'm going to do is I want to put all this residual shirt on the shirt back layer, so I'm just going to drag that down. You can see that's popped onto the other layer. There we go, so that's now on the front layer, this is on the back, shirt back layer, and you can see it's highlighted in green. And now what I need to do is get rid of some of these details, so I'm just going to select all the buttons. I'm going to keep these for a little while, so I'm just going to select them all, and I'm just going to pick them up and move them over here, like so. And then I'm going to remove all my stitch lines and the placket. So I'm just going to get rid of these stitches. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to, actually I'm going to lock, just get rid of these stitches. Oops. Use the direct selection tool to those because they're obviously grouped together with the collar. So I'm using the direct selection tool to pick them up. The stitches along the bottom I want to keep, so I'm not going to delete those because they're going to appear on the back of my shirt, but I'm going to lock them down. So I'm just going to select those and lock them, and then I'm selecting everything else, going to the Pathfinder tool, and I've just united there all those elements. Then I'm going to arrange and centre back, and then you can see my stitch line reappears. Now I'm going to create a dividing line for the collar, so I'm just going to draw a line across the back like that, just like we did. Oops, just hit return, stop drawing. Take the fill off. Remember, fills on dividing lines are disastrous, so I'm going to switch to my selection tool and select those 2 elements, the bodice and the collar line, and then divide. And you can see, I'm just going to go to ungroup. So right click ungroup, and you can see that my collar and the back of my shirt are now separate. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to finish off the back of the cuff. Now from the front we couldn't see the little placket on the cuff, the little fastener. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by drawing a rectangle. Now you need to judge this so it's in proportion with your cuff. I'm going to make mine about this size, and then I'm going to add a little point using the pen, add anchor point tool. There we go. Just about in the, that's not quite in the centre, so I'm just going to try and reposition that. Nudge that up. Okay, that'll do me. And then I'm going to go to path and path offset, and I'm adding my stitch line, just as we've done numerous times before. I'm just going to go up to my stroke panel because I need to centre these stitches. They look neater. That's better. Let's have a little look. There we are. Okay, that's not too bad. And then I'm just going to add some more stitches, like some reinforcement stitches across here, like so. And there we go. And again, centre those so they look nice and tidy. I don't want any fills on those. And then what I need to do is I'm going to use the, I'm taking the fill off all of these. I don't want to fill because I'm going to open the paths. Remember, we don't have fills on open paths. So I'm going to, oops. Just remove the bottom lines from those two shapes. I've grouped them together, so right click and group, and then I'm going to position them. Now you'll notice I'm positioning the bottom of this shape in line with the bottom of the cuff, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rotate tool. And I'm using this manually, so I'm just going to click here. That sets the point of origin, and then I can just rotate that round. I'm judging this by eye. I need to go a little bit more. I'm just going to click the point of origin again and just rotate a little bit more, because I don't know exactly how many degrees I need to do this by, so I'm just judging it. Okay, one more time, a little bit more, and I think that should just about do it. So what I'm going to do now, switch out to the direct selection tool, pick up this point at the bottom of the placket, and drag it down to the bottom of the cuff, trying to keep it as parallel as possible, and do the same with the stitch line, and move the stitches down. There we go. And then all that remains is for me to put this button in. So just move that into place like so. And let's have a little look, see how that's looking. That looks great. So now I can just get rid of the rest of the buttons, delete those, and I'm just going to add some stitches onto my collar. Same process that we used when we were making the front of the shirt. So there we go. And then I'm just going to get rid of the stitches that I don't want. So I'm going to use the direct selection tool and click on the pieces that I don't want. So I can get rid of those sides. There we are. So I've just got a stitch line around the bottom. At least I know it's absolutely parallel. Okay, now I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to make a curved yoke. You could make a straight one if you wanted to. I'm going to create a curve here like that. Just need to change the stroke style by taking the dash line off. There we go. And if I click on the line and then reflect, where's reflect? There we go. Reflect tool. Hold Alt and then reflect across the vertical axis and make a copy. Now I can see that it's not even, so I haven't hit absolute centre, so I'm going to put a little guide in. So I'm just calling up my rulers and I'm going to put a guide in on that centre line, and then I can see exactly how far I need to nudge those lines. There we go. And then I'm going to just right click and join. Okay, and then I click on the bodice and choose Pathfinder and divide and group. There we are. So now you can see my yoke area is separate. Okay, I'm going to add a stitch line like I've done before. Exactly the same. I'm using the eyedropper tool to pick up that style, and then just get rid of the lines that I don't want. So I really just want it over this shaped area at the bottom. So I'm going to centre those, and then use the direct selection tool to get rid of the bits that I don't want. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this line up here, and then I'm going to click on the ends of each point, so that'll do for that side, and then get rid of these. So I'm just clicking on the points and deleting, and there's my stitch line in place. And now I need to arrange centre back again. Every time I do this, I'm going to keep losing that stitch line. So I'm going to use the selection tool here to pick up all the elements of the placket. I'm going to group those together, and then we are going to reflect across the centre line again. So holding the Alt key, click, and you can see it's gone over. I've just made a copy, and there we are. There's the front and back of my shirt. So now I can select the whole of the front of my shirt, group it together, right click and group. And I'm going to do the same thing with the back of the shirt. So I'm going to select the whole of the back of the shirt, right click and group. Oops, missed a bit. There we go, right click, group. There we go, and then I can move the front of the shirt so it just sits just over the back like so. And then I think I'll switch the mannequin off and see how it's looking. And there it is.